It is Future Taylor here. I went to my very first makeup lesson last week with my mum, and I thought if any of you are like me and you find makeup just so overwhelming and just really confusing at times, then this might be a service that you're interested in. So I thought, why not take you along the process, share with you my honest opinion and review on the service, as well as teach you what I learned and also share with you all of the products that the makeup artist recommended to me. So let's not chat anymore and let's just jump straight into the video. We began the makeup lesson by going through what we currently own to get a good idea of what we're actually working with. We then discussed what we're wanting to achieve in terms of the makeup look, and luckily both my mum and I were wanting to achieve the same look, which made it a bit more easier and straightforward. We were wanting to learn how to do a natural glam that we can wear to work, but also add a few tweaks to it to turn it from a daytime look to a nighttime look. We were then provided 4 sheets of paper. One listed all her general tips, the second was a list of all the brushes she recommended, and then the third one had a face diagram that we could use to note down the placement of certain makeup products we discussed, and lastly was a piece of paper that had the product categories of the whole entire makeup application that we could use to just write down general notes during the session. And lastly, before we moved on to the actual makeup part of the lesson, we discussed our skin types, in which mine is combination. We then moved through the whole entire makeup application process, and with each step she would ask us whether we actually include the step in our routine, and if so, what products we use and whether we think it works well or not on our skin. And from there we could either discuss if we're willing to keep it in our routine or if we're open to suggestions. The first step we discussed was sunscreen. So I currently use Cetaphil oil-free SPF 25 moisturizer. However, I don't think this works actually very well under makeup. It's also very low in SPF and it does in fact make my eyes water. So the sunscreen that the makeup artist suggested was the ultraviolet SPF 50+ Supreme Screen Hydrating Facial Skin Screen. Bit of a mouthful, but that is what she suggested. She also said that this product covers 3 aspects. It is a moisturizer, a sunscreen, and a primer for your makeup. I also learned that you're actually meant to use at least 4 pumps of sunscreen for it to actually be considered effective and worthwhile. We then moved on to the foundation, and to my surprise, she actually said my foundation was perfectly colour matched, which is great, and that the product itself was a good selection for me, which was the NARS Light Reflecting Foundation, which is a medium buildable coverage and has a natural finish. Also, from this step onward, Cass was more hands-on during each of the steps of the makeup process, so she would demonstrate the technique on one side of my face for me to be able to observe her, then I would need to try replicate this on the other side of the face. However, I learned when applying foundation, it is always best to have a foundation dish to apply your foundation to, and work it evenly into the brush before applying it to your face to ensure the foundation is slowly built up as well as evenly applied, rather than the technique that I was using, which was basically pumping the foundation straight onto your face and using the brush to transfer it across all of the areas of my face, which made it a lot more harder to make sure your foundation was perfectly even. I also learnt when using a brush, it is always best to dab the product into your face rather than dragging it, as you're wanting to press the foundation into your skin to create more of a smooth and flawless look. The next step we moved on to was concealer, and here we learnt the key areas of your face to utilize your concealer, which is the outer corner of your mouth, around the edges of your nose, your under eye, your outer corner of your eye to the end of your eyebrow, and then lastly in the middle of your brows just above your forehead. She also recommended, of course, to dab the product into your skin to make sure you keep it in these areas. Also, a hot tip she had to minimize the risk of under eye creasing is by ensuring you're including a hydrating under eye cream in your morning skincare routine. We then moved on to setting the face, which I already had the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder, and she said to set the face after using all of your wet products, such as your foundation and your concealer, in a light tabbing motion. However, she did say if you're using a wet blush or a wet bronzer to do this prior to setting. We then moved on to bronzer, and she taught us the number 3 rule, in which you create a number 3 on your face, where the bronzer goes along the side of your forehead, comes down and along the bottom of your cheekbone, and then back along your jawline, using this Morphe brush. I have been out of bronzer for a very long time, so she actually recommended the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer in shade 1 for me. We then moved on to blush, and she actually loved the blushes we already owned, in particular the NARS Orgasm Full Play Blush Quad, which looks like this. She also highly recommended mixing shades, so I actually mixed the bottom 2 shades of this palette, and she told me to focus this along the top part of my cheekbone on the outer half, then add a little bit on the outskirts of your forehead and as well as along the tip of your nose, if you are a blush lover like me. We then moved on to the eyebrows, and she taught us to first brush up all the eyebrow hairs directly up, and then using an eyebrow crayon pen to line out the bottom of the eyebrow and then the inner half of the top of the brow. Once drawing these lines, we then go back in and brush the eyebrow up to buff out these bold lines. Then from here, using a light hand, we can feather in some more product in the areas that we need more coverage. Once we are done filling in the eyebrows, we would then use some clear gel and brush the eyebrow hair in the opposite direction to work in some of the product. Then we will brush the eyebrow hairs right up again, and then using the tip of the brush, we will sweep it along the very top of the eyebrow to just clean up the hairline. The next step was eyeshadow, and she recommended using the Hourglass Veil eye primer on the lid to prep the eyes. She then recommended using a fluffy blending brush using a light colour to apply to your crease line and your lid. While blending this across the crease line, make sure you have a very light hand, and as you're moving across the lid, create tiny little circular motions rather than a wind wiping technique. She then recommended using a flat shader brush to apply a little bit of shimmer to the inner lid to create a little bit of interest, and then using a define and detail brush using a darker brown colour, work this into the outer third of your eyelid right along the lash line to create a little bit of depth to your eye and more of a natural look than using eyeliner. Then using a flat detailed brush, take the same light brown shade that you put all over your lid and your crease and put it along the outer half of your bottom lash line to finish off the eye look. Next was mascara, which I use the MK Beauty Extend Lash Tubing Mascara, which I absolutely love, and this is also a top favourite of Cass, the makeup artist. Cass also did recommend working this into the root of the lash with a slight wiggle motion as you move your way to the outer part of the lash. This creates a bit of separation between all of the lashes. Lastly, we finish off with setting spray, which Cass recommended the Urban Decay All Nighter Setting Spray. I almost forgot about the lips, but Cass did recommend a lip product to me, which was one of the Lano Lips Tinted Balm, which is SPF 30, so it is really good for sun protection while also providing a beautiful colour to the lips. And in fact, it did come in a shade that actually matches my lip blushing, so I'm really keen to go try that out. The last and final tip I wanted to cover was Cass did recommend to wash your brushes once a week, which I definitely do not do. And she did recommend this because it can reduce the cause of acne as well as just improve the makeup application process. I have just finished up at my makeup lesson and this is the final look. I'm so happy with it. We went for a natural glam look and I feel like her as the makeup artist and myself nailed it. I love it so much and I've honestly walked away from the session feeling so confident in terms of knowing what to do, how to better apply my makeup, things that I should remove from my makeup routine, things I should be adding. But I'm heading to Hamden now, so I only was hopping on here to show you what the makeup looked like at the end. So I'll catch back in with you tomorrow and I'll say goodbye to you now. See you guys. So now that you have seen the structure and everything we did in the makeup lesson, I now thought I would run you through my thoughts, my opinions and my comments in terms of the makeup lesson. And in terms of did I enjoy it and what I learned, I honestly really enjoyed the makeup lesson. The time went so fast and I honestly took a lot from the makeup lesson. I learned the structure of a makeup application in terms of what products you start with and the order in which you apply the rest of them in, as well as their technique, because prior to this makeup lesson I was literally just doing what I thought was right or just what I'd been doing since the age of year 10 when I picked up makeup. So one thing I would note is I would recommend going to a makeup lesson with a friend or a mum or anyone that's interested in makeup, just because you're already comfortable with that person, so you can bounce your convo off each other as well as your energy, and having someone there that you're comfortable with and meeting someone you've never met before, I just feel like you get the best out of the lesson and you just feel a lot more comfortable from the start. And I don't know, I just felt like I got the best out of my session just feeling a lot more comfortable. I don't know if that made sense, but yeah. The second thing I would note would be definitely brainstorming and finding some inspiration photos on Pinterest of the type of makeup look you're wanting to achieve and learn. And the third thing would be also really having a think about your time in the mornings and working out exactly how much time you can allow yourself to put aside for your makeup application. So when you are going into the makeup lesson, you have everything already in your head. You can show her the inspo photos, you can tell her what you're ideally wanting to learn and achieve, as well as the time you're working with, because that will also depend on how many products or how many steps in the makeup process there is, depending on how much time you allow yourself. The next tip I would say is, prior to the makeup lesson, is understanding how you best learn, whether that is just watching and listening, or whether you're someone that learns more by doing, by picking up a makeup brush and trying it yourself. Because I found during the makeup lesson, I found it good to do a mixture. So basically, Cass, the makeup artist, would demonstrate on half of my face and show me the technique, and I would just watch and listen. And then in the second half of my face, I would then pick up the brush and try and do it myself, being more practical and trying to apply what I just watched and listened to. But yeah, definitely work out what your learning style is prior to the makeup lesson so you can communicate this to the makeup artist. And the last and final thing I wanted to cover is the cost, which I'm sure you're all wanting to know. So basically, the makeup artist that I went to was $195 for one person for 2 hours. The next option she had was for 2 people for 3 hours, and this was a total of $340, which obviously worked out to be $175 each. And then the last and final option that the makeup artist offered was whether you have a group of 3 to 6, which would be $115 each, and this in terms of time would be anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 hours. But yeah, that is the total wrap up of the costing of the makeup artist in particular that I went to. Obviously, this may differ from artist to artist. And that is everything that I wanted to cover in terms of my makeup lesson. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you also found it informative if you are considering getting a makeup lesson done with a makeup artist. But if there was anything I missed, or if you have any questions, then please leave them down in the comment section below. And that is all from me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.